Why Japanese couples don't fight over money or stuff. Have you ever noticed that some couples seem to breeze through conversations about money, while others end up arguing about who spent too much on groceries? Well, what if we told you that in Japan, married couples have figured out something that's kept financial stress almost completely out of their relationships? Today, we're breaking down exactly how Japanese couples manage to stay on the same financial page without the drama, the arguments, or the silent treatment that we so often see in Western relationships. Stick around because this might just change how you think about money and love. So, here's the thing that we find absolutely fascinating about Japanese culture. When it comes to handling money in a marriage, Japanese couples have developed this system that's been working for generations, and honestly, it might be the most stress-free approach to shared finances we've ever come across. We're not talking about some complicated mathematical formula or anything weird. We're talking about something so simple and practical that once you hear it, you'll probably wonder why more couples around the world aren't doing the same thing. The beautiful part is that this approach takes the emotion out of money management and replaces it with respect, trust, and clear understanding. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why financial arguments are so rare in Japanese marriages, and you might actually want to try some of these methods yourself. The household budget culture. Let's start with something really important. In Japan, married life has traditionally operated on something called the household budget culture, and we mean that in the most beautiful way possible. Here's what happens. When a Japanese couple gets married, they often create what's essentially a family bank account or a joint financial pool that belongs to the household, not to individuals. This isn't just about putting money together, though. It's about creating a unified vision of what the family needs and what their shared goals are. When we talk to people about this, they often ask whether this means people lose their independence, but that's actually not how it works at all. What it actually does is shift the focus from my money and your money to our money and our future. And that mindset change is absolutely revolutionary for how couples approach finances. The system works because both people understand from the very beginning that they're building something together, not competing for resources. In many Japanese households, one partner, traditionally the wife, but increasingly both partners contribute, manages the day-to-day finances and household budget. This doesn't mean the other person has no say, though. Decisions about major purchases, savings goals, and financial direction are discussed openly and decided together as a team. Think about how different that is from what we often see. Instead of each person tracking their own spending or worrying about fairness in every single purchase, they're operating from a place where both people have already agreed on the priorities. The allowance system. Now, here's where things get really interesting, and we know this might sound unusual at first, but just hear us out. Many Japanese married couples operate on what's called the allowance system, and honestly, it's kind of genius when you really think about it. Here's how it works. After paying household expenses, saving for family goals, and handling all the shared responsibilities, the remaining money is divided into personal allowances for each person. So both partners get money that's entirely their own to spend however they want, no questions asked. This is absolutely key because it means that each person has financial independence and the freedom to make personal choices without needing permission or feeling guilty. You can buy yourself something nice, treat a friend to lunch, or save it up for whatever you're interested in without having to explain yourself to your spouse. At the same time, though, because these allowances come after the household needs are taken care of, there's no resentment building up about one person buying stuff while bills aren't paid. Everyone knows the important stuff is handled first. The amount of the allowance is typically discussed and agreed upon by both partners, based on what makes sense for the household. And here's the beautiful part. This system removes so much of the tension that happens in Western marriages around money. You're not sitting around keeping score of who spent what or whose purchase was more justified. Your personal allowance is yours to do as you please, and the household money is sacred and protected for shared goals. This creates this amazing balance between unity and individual freedom that just works remarkably well. Financial transparency and honesty. Moving along, we need to talk about transparency, because this is foundational to everything we've been discussing. In Japanese culture, there's a really strong emphasis on honesty and openness when it comes to household finances. And we mean that complete openness. Both partners typically know exactly what's coming in, what's going out, and where everything is going. There's no secret spending, no hidden credit card accounts, and no surprise debts suddenly popping up. This might sound intense if you're not used to it, but the reality is that this transparency is actually incredibly freeing. When both people know exactly where they stand financially, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to suspect, and nothing to fight over. The fear and uncertainty that can breed arguments in relationships just doesn't have room to exist here. What we find really interesting is that this transparency isn't policed or paranoid. It's not like one person is constantly checking on the other or demanding receipts. Instead, it's this natural mutual understanding that you're a team, and teams share information. If a big purchase is needed, or if someone wants to spend more than usual in a certain area, they just mention it. It's discussed, they figure it out together, and then they move forward. There's no need for deception because there's no shame attached to reasonable spending. This openness actually builds trust incredibly quickly, and it means that when issues do come up, they're addressed immediately rather than festering for months or years until they explode into arguments. Shared decision-making on major purchases. Let's talk about how Japanese couples handle major financial decisions, because this is where we see some really thoughtful approaches. When it comes to something significant, like buying a home, investing money, starting a business, or any purchase that's going to impact the family's financial situation, Japanese couples take their time and make these decisions together as equals. There's usually a discussion phase where both people get to share their thoughts, their concerns, and their ideas. This isn't about one person convincing the other or winning an argument. It's about genuinely listening and finding a solution that both people feel good about. What's interesting is that even if one partner is more financially knowledgeable or interested in investments, the other person's input is still valued and heard. Maybe one person is more cautious about taking financial risks, while the other is more willing to invest. But they talk through it until they land on something they both can accept. The key here is that neither person feels like their voice was silenced or their concerns were dismissed. In many Western relationships, we see this dynamic where one person makes financial decisions and the other person either has to go along with it or feels resentful about being excluded from the process. In Japanese households, this rarely happens because there's this ingrained cultural value around consensus and harmony in decision-making. When you're making these decisions together, you're not just reaching an agreement, you're actually building a stronger partnership. Different financial roles without power imbalance. Here's something nuanced that we want to make sure you understand. In many Japanese households, one partner handles the day-to-day financial management, right? They might be the one paying bills, managing the household budget, tracking expenses, and handling savings. But, and this is important, this division of labor doesn't create a power imbalance the way it sometimes does in other cultures. The person managing the money doesn't view themselves as holding power over the other person. Instead, they see themselves as handling one important responsibility in the partnership, just like cooking, childcare, or earning income might be other responsibilities. And the person not directly managing the money doesn't feel excluded or uninformed. They know what's happening because there's that transparency we talked about earlier. They can ask questions anytime, they're involved in major decisions, and they understand the bigger financial picture. It's actually similar to how team members in a company might have different roles but still know what's going on in their department. What's really important to understand is that in Japanese culture, different roles don't automatically mean one person has more value or more control. There's respect for the job each person is doing. So the person managing finances isn't seen as more important than the person focused on raising kids or maintaining the home or earning income. Each role is viewed as necessary for the household to function well. This is a massive shift from how things work in many Western households, where we sometimes see financial control become a source of tension or even abuse. The impact of cultural values. To really understand why this system works so well in Japan, we need to look at the cultural foundation underneath it all. Japanese culture places a really strong emphasis on harmony, community, and the collective good, and these values absolutely shape how people approach relationships and money. The concept of wa, which means harmony or balance, is deeply embedded in Japanese thinking. People are taught from childhood to prioritize the group's well-being and to avoid actions that might create conflict or disharmony. In a marriage, this means both people are naturally inclined to find solutions that work for everyone, rather than trying to win arguments or prove themselves right. There's also the value of respect, or Cato, which means respecting relationships and the people in your life. This extends to respecting your partner's feelings about money, respecting their needs, and respecting their right to have a voice in financial decisions. Additionally, Japanese people tend to value long-term thinking over short-term gains. When you're thinking about the next 50 years of marriage and family life together, having a fight over a purchase that doesn't really matter starts to seem pretty silly. You're more likely to say, "Is this worth damaging my relationship over?" And the answer is almost always no. These cultural values aren't laws or rules that are enforced. They're just part of the water that people swim in. They're taught through stories, examples, family dynamics, and daily interactions from the time someone is born. By the time people are adults getting married, these values are just baked into how they naturally think and behave. What Western couples can learn. Now, we know what you might be thinking. Sure, this all sounds great in Japan, but we're living in different cultures with different values. So what can actually be translated and applied to Western relationships? Honestly, quite a lot. The first thing that we think every couple could benefit from is creating a united financial vision. Sit down together and talk about what you're trying to build. Are you saving for a house, building college funds, creating a retirement plan? When both people know what they're working toward, it changes the entire conversation about money. Instead of fighting about who's spending too much, you're working together towards something you both want. The second thing is implementing some kind of system that gives both people financial independence within boundaries. This might look different than the traditional Japanese allowance system depending on your situation, but the principle is solid. Each person gets some money that's theirs, no questions asked, while the household needs are taken care of. This removes so much unnecessary tension. The third thing is committing to transparency. Share your financial information with your partner, not in a controlling way, but in a "we're on the same team and teams share information" way. Know what's coming in, know what's going out, and know where the money is going. And finally, make a commitment to making major financial decisions together. Don't let one person make choices that affect both of you without discussion. Listen to each other's concerns, respect different approaches to risk and spending, and work together to find solutions you both can live with. So here is what we really want you to take away from all of this. Japanese couples don't fight about money because they've built systems and values around unity, transparency, respect, and shared decision-making. They've created structures that make it natural to work together rather than against each other. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to be Japanese or change your entire culture to benefit from some of these approaches. The core ideas are universal because they're based on treating your partner like a partner, not like a competitor. Whether you're just starting a relationship or you're looking to improve how you and your spouse handle finances, remember that money fights are usually not really about money. They're about feeling unheard, feeling disrespected, or feeling like you're not valued. When you address those underlying issues and create systems that make you feel like a team, the financial stress just naturally starts to disappear. If this video helped you think differently about money and relationships, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more insights into how different cultures approach life and relationships. Drop a comment letting us know what financial habit from Japanese couples you think could work best in your own life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.